Welcome to the long-delayed 5th episode of Analyzing Evil. In this video, we'll be focusing on Amy Dunne from the film Gone Girl, based on the novel of the same name by Gillian Flynn. Keep in mind that this video is purely based off of the film, and I won't be exploring the contents of the book at any point. I imagine this character represents something so eerie and close to home for many people who've watched this film, and that's the thought that the woman, or man I trust more than anyone in the world, the person I know inside and out, who I've decided to spend my life with, and who I sleep next to every night, could have a monster hiding inside them. Nick Dunne is far from a perfect husband, and while his actions are inexcusable, the lengths Amy goes to seek her revenge are far outside the norm for any reasonable person to take. But why? Why is Amy the way she is? What clues and hints do we receive during the film to show us how this woman became who she is revealed to be on the inside? Here I'll be showing you the fuel that ignited the fire that is her psychopathy, and how it shaped her into the cold and calculating creature that she's become. It's implied through her diary entries that her development at a young age was heavily influenced and subsequently dampened by the shadow of Amazing Amy that hung over her head. Imagine this. You're a child whose entire life is turned into a caricature your mother has created of you based on your failures. Whatever you fail at, the fictional version of yourself excels in. All the disappointment you feel at your failures is forever immortalized in images and words in books your mother creates, where the idealized version of you not only succeeds, but becomes a prodigy in their endeavors. It's easy to see how this could alter your perception of yourself, twisting your expectations into nothing short of perfection for anything and everything that you do, trying desperately to live up to impossible standards set by your own shortcomings. Amy's mother seems to be the center of this, a shallow wasp of a parent who pushes their child to the limit with little room for error. Her father seems supportive and caring at times, but he's really only an echo of his wife, who strives to keep her world in a perfect order that she has envisioned. Her father can be seen as the shoddy glue that holds Amy and her mother together, the supportive bond that tries to keep his daughter happy while also bending to his wife's will. This is one of the ingredients for the perfect storm, coupled with some underlying mental issues of her own, which she either developed or was born with, to make Amy into this hidden nightmare for anyone who crosses her path. On the outside, she is Amazing Amy. She seems to be the perfect woman. Beautiful, intelligent, charming, charismatic. But on the inside, she harbors intense insecurities, the need for control, and a warped set of standards to live up to. Another key detail that we receive is that Amy always has her nose in a book, which is certainly not a bad thing, but for Amy we can assume that part of the reason she's constantly reading is because she strives to live in a world of perfection which only fantasies can truly provide. An indication of this, especially when it comes to her love life, is when her and Nick are in a bookstore in a flashback and she hides one of the clues for their anniversary hunt in a Jane Austen book. Here, Nick makes a comment about how she must have been an alienated teen which only Elizabeth Bennet understood. This is a very subtle detail, but it reflects her want and need to create her love life into the perfect image of idealized romance and passion that is portrayed in these books. A terrible desperation that she's been developing throughout her entire life. Another troubling detail we receive early on is the fact that Amy doesn't have any real friends, the only one that we get to see being the neighbor that she's manipulated into being best friends with her, so she could put on a front for the media and the police about the fictitious life she's created in her diary and through her actions in the film. However, she's incredibly capable when it comes to social interaction, and she's able to charm others into believing the facade she's put on. Her only true close interactions with other people seem to be with her lovers, whom she doesn't seek out for their person in particular, but who have just enough baseline traits that give her the unmolded clay she needs to shape them into the man of her dreams. The lovers that we learn about that came before Nick both have different, but at the same time similar experiences with Amy to the ordeal she is currently putting Nick through. Both are being described as being harmful to Amy in different ways. Desi is painted as a stalker who's been hounding Amy for years, a creep who just can't get over her and won't leave her alone. Tommy was convicted of raping Amy after a drunken night, and has been shunned by the general public for his actions. In the case of Desi, it's later seen that he seems to be unaware of the labels she has attached to him, his only comment about their previous relationship being that she kept him on a leash. With Tommy, however, he knows for certain that he was framed and that he didn't rape her. When Nick goes to Tommy, He learns that Amy was very controlling with Tommy and tried to mold him into the man she wanted him to be. Sound familiar? Tommy cites ties that she bought for him, ties he didn't want to wear. She subsequently used those very same ties as evidence to implicate Tommy in her supposed rape. Now let's go back to Nick. For the treasure hunt she set up for their anniversary, the breadcrumbs she's placed along the way are laced with hints toward his infidelities. While infidelity is much more extreme than simply refusing some ties your girlfriend has bought for you, these two things are important in establishing something crucial to Amy's mentality. Everything is personal. Every little last thing. From the ties you wouldn't wear, to the laziness you show, to the infidelities you commit. Some are undoubtedly more deserving of a personal vendetta, but in her twisted mind, this leads her down a path that few tread. The path of ultimate and intensely personal revenge that she dishes out to Tommy and then to Nick. Now let's break down the plan she has for Nick. First, she takes an extraordinary amount of time and attention to detail to put her plan into action. Months and months of planning are put into her scheme. She cultivates relationships, creates fantasies through her diary entries, and hard evidence through financial records and DNA to implicate Nick as an abusive, careless, lazy, cheating husband who snapped and finally killed his wife. The elaborate treasure hunt she set up for Nick is designed to mock and degrade him at every turn. From the panties in his office, to the Punch and Judy puppets in the shed, she's doing her best to pick at his psyche and break him down mentally as she cultivates this false image of her husband. All this work she does culminates in her drawing her own blood, staging her own murder, and then planning to kill herself and send her husband to death row when the media has devoured Nick and broken him into an image of a disgusting subhuman husband who deserves what's coming to him. Let me repeat that last part of her plan. She's going to kill herself to put her husband in prison. How far gone does your mind have to be to take revenge to this extreme level? She's willing to take her own life for the ultimate revenge. In her mind, his absence of perfection and then unwillingness to transform into the man she's dreamed he would be, coupled with his past transgressions, have pushed her already fragile mind to this dark ultimatum. Towards the back end of the film, we find her being rescued by Desi, manipulating yet another person in order to now shield her from the fallout of the mess she's made. She then hatches a new plan, a cold and calculated mission to frame Desi as a kidnapper and a rapist, using her past accusations against him and the footage she creates on his home security system as near foolproof evidence. She once again maims herself, tying strings around her wrists until they bruise, and even goes so far as to violate herself with a bottle to show forced penetration. She kills a man who had nothing but love for her to save her own skin. And to top it off, her expression throughout his death is plain and void of emotion. This scene in particular shows more than anything her view of humans. They're playthings and tools to be used to further her own ends, which she uses wantonly without any regard for anyone but herself. Now, the end of the film truly reveals the utter depravity of Amy Dunne. Upon returning home, she successfully convinces most of the people in her community and the media that she is nothing but a victim and that she has returned home to forgive her husband and try to fix their marriage. We're taken for a ride in these last moments. Surely Nick won't stay with her. There's no possible way anyone could forgive her for what she's done, or live in the same house with a monster like that. But, like everything else, Amy has a contingency plan for this new reality she finds herself in. Earlier in the film, we are given a small detail stating that Nick had some semen stored at a fertility clinic. Amy uses this semen to impregnate herself, thereby trapping Nick into staying with her, using the thought of abandoning his child and leaving them with a monster to keep him in check. She's done it. Amy Dunne has, through a series of strange and disturbing events, trapped a man into being her ideal husband. Trapped a man into a world where she has finally transcended her limits and become what she's always wanted to be. The real amazing Amy. So, after all this, what do we have? We have a neglected and berated child who has been transformed into a narcissistic, cunning, obsessive monster that seeks to manipulate the people around her to create a perfect world she envisions in her own mind. Much like the perfect world and perfect daughter her mother created in her Amazing Amy books. In the end, Amy Dunne is the very definition of a psychopath, and perhaps one of the most terrifying and impressive villains ever to appear in cinema. I hope you all have enjoyed this episode. Please leave a comment below suggesting who you'd like to be featured in the next entry in this series. Thanks for watching, and I'll be seeing you soon.